morning, Ani Boujou. Hello, how are you? Myriah Indigenous. My name is Myriah, that's what I go by. Mishike Indodum, I'm Turtle Clan, Potawatomi Pokagon Band. I am a member of the Potawatomi Pokagon Band of Indians. English Juganash, I'm also English on my mother's side. I am so happy to be here today. I work at the Outdoor Discovery Center. You guys probably know about it. It's a fantastic place. They are doing some mind-blowing things there. I didn't know about that it even existed until my friend sent me the job posting, and she was like, you need to check this place out. They do really cool stuff. As I dug further into what the job would entail, it would entail weekly engaging with up to 200 students from the local area in the 3rd through 5th grade age range and giving them accurate indigenous histories. So part of the Michigan state standards have been updated, and there is now laws saying that they must have indigenous history and culture into their curriculum. And so we are working on updating that and making it relevant and bringing in some traditional practices as well as some of those ancient practices to those kids. I do ask that if you have questions, we can make this interactive. I'm used to working with kids. I've worked in higher education for a long time. I've been a camp counselor for years and years and years. I have untold numbers of nieces and nephews. I have 3 sons and a grandson. I love questions. I love interaction. I think I don't have all the answers. So also be aware that I don't know everything. Sometimes I might not know. And that's okay. We can do that. We can give each other that kind of grace in this space. So as an educator for the Outdoor Discovery Center, one thing I've learned is that the seasons change. And so the seasons change. Right now we're just wrapping up summer as you guys are here. So we started a camp this year. It was my first year running traditional handicrafts camp. And that we did some Anishinaabe traditional camps type activities. I had kids and we learned how to make cordage out of some of our natural fibers. We learned how to dye some fabrics, which was really fun. They really had a good time with that. And probably the most exciting and most treasured thing we did at camp is we took porcupine quills and I taught them how to put a bead on it and then how to make it into an arrow so they can play darts together. So, you know, there's just no end to the fun you can have with the resources. And that's something my dad taught me years and years ago that him and his brothers and sisters did. That was a game. They threw them at each other. I didn't teach the kids that. We made a nice little dart board on the ground in the carpet and they went for that. But there's just so many different ways we can use some of those traditional items. Like here are some porcupine quills. These are quills that I got from a porcupine in the Petoskey area, somewhere around there. A hunter brought him to me when I let him know I was looking for a porcupine. Has anybody ever dealt with porcupines? Have your dogs? So porcupines are really interesting because these are considered hares. Hares are hollow inside, and so when they shoot, and they don't really shoot them like a gun, they have to slap their tails. When they project them, they have these nice barbs on the end, and those barbs stick in, and they're held out because of that pressure in that hair. So if you want to get the barb out, you have to cut and release the pressure, and then you can pull it out much easier and doing a lot less damage. I have a lot of fun with these. I have the kids, usually the kids who are boisterous and excited, I allow them to touch them and put their fingers in, because see, without that trajectory, without them intentionally, they might stick, but they're not really going to hurt you. So that's a nice thing to learn about porcupine quills. So we do quill work in our community. We have quite a few phenomenal quill workers, and they do something called quill wrapping. So they're going to sort these quills. You can pass that around, play with it. They're going to sort these quills out by size. They're going to dye them. You can dye them with RIT dye. You can dye them with natural dyes, which would be like a pokeberry or a nice dark walnut, but of course that stains you with the iodine look. It's quite beautiful. But you can use anything like that. We've even used Kool-Aid, so I call that traditional Kool-Aid, because years ago when we were taken out to reservations and given food commodities, that would be one of the things we would have gotten in our commodities boxes. So we would have found a way to use that colors and those dyes and make use of them other than just drinking it. So definitely would have used that Kool-Aid. So So the porcupine quills, when you're doing the wrap work, they're going to flatten the quill out, and they don't really get it wet. And then they wrap it around like a soft rawhide. This is soft, this is like a medium, and this is a real flimsy rawhide. So it would just be little strips or little circles, and then you would be able to build off of that, and you could do many different geometric patterns and colors. And that is one way people do quill work in this area. Another way is they do it applique style, and that is done on birch bark or weeguas. So that birch bark is really wonderful. You have to, and I still have some little holes in my finger from doing it last week. You have to take an awl and you punch through the birch bark, and then you thread that porcupine quill in. Those quills, you would have soaked them so they'd be soft and pliable. So as you're bending them into the two holes to make a bridge with them to show the color, you wouldn't get that weird ridge line that pops. So one technique I learned is that the weeguas or the birch bark, it kind of folds as you peel it off, so it'll be bowed. So you're going to take two opposite sides and put them together and hold them firm so they hold each other at tension, so you get a nice flat piece of work. So that was something I learned this past week. This past week was a very important time for my people. We just had the Potawatomi gathering of all the nations. We have 11 nations. Our nations get together once a year. We really like each other. Each tribe takes a turn hosting. This year it was Gun Lake's turn, and so we were just down the road, just in Allegan County. There was about 4,000 people who came from all over the nation. We come to be together. We do 2 days of language intensive, so you can go be a language nerd and just learn and hear the language being spoken and see the direction it's heading. It's being revived. It's being brought to life again. We have almost all of our traditional speakers, people who grew up speaking the language, have passed on and walked on, but they've left us many gifts in recordings, and they've taught many people some of the language, so they're bringing it all together, and we're making some unified language resources. So we regionally, just kind of like you could have a Southern draw, and you could have the Michigan milk pillow type accents. We also have that, so they're deciphering between those different fine languages, accents, and bringing it together. So we'll be able to teach our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. The federal government requires for us to be a tribe is that we would have our traditions and our language and our culture intact. So we're working really hard as a nation or multiple nations that are united as one to make that happen. Now the Potawatomi gathering is the 2 days of language, and then we do 2 days of arts and crafts. And that's where you're going to do things like make a drum, make a drumstick, make moccasins, learn how to do beadwork, learn how to do ribbon work, applique work. We've learned so many things. One of the things I learned how to do was how to make a feast bag. So this is the feast bag I made. This feast bag is made out of about just under a yard of fabric, so you get a nice big cut. But traditionally this would have been made out of a dress sleeve. So you would upcycle your dress sleeve, and this would have been something you would keep your bowl and spoon and cup in. So you were responsible as an Anishinaabe person to carry your own after you've had your puberty rites and you've gone through that. You would carry your own dish and spoon and cup, and you're responsible for that for every meal. You would wash it every meal, you would take care of it, you would put it back in your bag, you would bring it with you. So this was a really cool item. This one I just got at the gathering. If you can see, they did some really incredible laser work in here. It's the gathering logo. So this was a gift from Gun Lake Tribe. They gifted us all these bowls and these spoons, so we'll be ready to go to a feast. We had a traditional feast at the powwow. So a lot of people brought their bowls. I knew I was going to be using it for work, so I did not go put buffalo stew in here. But they would have brought their bowls and their items and eaten with those to show respect for the wood, to show respect for our planet, to show respect for those animals and those vegetables and grains that gave their life to sustain our life. So we're just doing the reciprocity of giving back. I don't know if you guys want to see that. how cool that is. It's a beautiful piece of work. I don't know who produced all the wood, but this was a hand-sewn project. As you can see, I barely finished it last night. But if you can see, it would have been the sleeve, that garment. So I don't know if I would have gone with the bumblebees, but that's a lovely piece. So with our language, we are restoring, one of the things we're restoring is the seasons and the moons. So in our teachings and our traditions, we have 13 moons that we go by, and each one has a different name. There are other people in our lives that have 13 phases throughout the year, and those are women. So women have a cycle that lasts and goes 13 times throughout the year. And so we kind of match with that. And then also that is the same, that's on the back of a turtle. So they have those beautiful, they have those beautiful markings, each one of those little marks. I'm slipping on the name of what those are called. But those are going to have the 12 that go around, and then one, I think it's 21 or 27 that go around for each day of the month. That would equal a full cycle if you did it the 13 times over a full year. So we have here, we have Bear Moon. Bear Moon is going to be in southwestern Michigan during Mako-Geesis. So Mako is bear, Geesis is moon. Bears are in their dens as the female gives birth to their cubs. This is why it's called Mako-Geesis. So that's January, and that's the official start of winter. So a nice thing to know about bears is we've all learned that they hibernate. I did not know they don't really hibernate until I started working at the Outdoor Discovery Center. They go through torpor. And so they are asleep, but they're not fully sleeping. They get up and they do give birth. Every once in a while they will exit their den to use the bathroom and come back in. So while they're asleep, they're not really in that deep sleep we think of as being true hibernation. So the different moons and the different times all have a language, all are identified with something that seasonally relates to them. So there's the bear moon, there's the Gon-Geesis, which is the snowfall moon. So we love that one because that's when story time is. So we do have a tradition of telling stories, but only when there's snow on the ground. For several different reasons. One you can guess is that there's a little bit less work to do if there's no growing crops and you have your food dried and stored. Another reason we do that is the sun goes down early. Kids are still awake. We can sit around the fire and enjoy stories together. The stories that are told during that time are not the ones that are in print and publication. Some of them are, and some of them come close to the stories we tell. The stories that we tell are from our elders. They give life lessons. Those stories are not always translated the same way to everyone. It depends on the person and the teaching that they need at that time, so they will be tailored to that situation. So a true storyteller will have a relationship with the people they're telling the stories to and will know what information to give them. And I'm sure you guys have all experienced that you're like, oh, walk away and you're like, I didn't tell them that whole story, but for some reason they got every single part that they needed. So it's an incredible facet we have in our community during the winter time. That goes on, we have like these storytellers. This is Simon Otto. His book has really fantastic stories in it. There's a few storybooks that are published that have our traditional stories in it. What you're going to want to look for if you're doing that is a book that has been actually written by an indigenous person and gives credit and can identify what nation they come from. There's a lot of older books out there that were written about indigenous people by non-indigenous people. So sometimes they don't always catch all the nuance of the story. And so we want to make sure we are going back to those first speakers and those people who have that knowledge and carry those traditions. All right, any questions? Yes, sir.
So, you were talking about the different moons, this upcoming full moon.
Let's see. I have a full list in the back here of the moons, and we are going to, because they go late December to early January. So we're going to go late July to early August is going to be the lake trout moon. Nemanguegesis, the lake trout. So that would be what we're fishing for our trout. Probably they've spawned, they're getting ready to keep going on their journey, and we are going to snag them. After this is the elk moon, then the active deer moon, then the smoked turkey moon, and then we go to that big bear moon. So the moon cycles, they relate to the seasons and the things you would be doing. One more, yes?
When you were talking about the quill
Yeah.
applique and embroidery, you mentioned birch bark, but you mentioned something else that I'm not sure I caught, but leaf something?
The rawhide?
No, and these sometimes clothing is made out of it too. Maybe I didn't hear the word.
The rawhide, the weeguas? Weeguas, that's birch bark.
Oh,
That's birch bark. Yep. Yeah, no problem. Definitely, yeah. And that has those two budding curls that you want to get.
Can I ask, this tribe of Indians, were they in this area?
Oh, definitely.
Or did
No.
they move on, go farther north? Or?
No, this is part of our ceded territory. We're located down here, right at the border. The Treaty of Chicago was written with my people. And so we have about from the Grand River all the way down and around Notre Dame. We have a relationship with them because they're on our ceded territory as well. So we have been here for a very long time. There are a lot of other nations and communities that would have been in this area because it's a hotbed because of all the different waterways that come together and intersect. So this would have been a place for coming together just before breaking up and going to camp. There would have been a lot of villages here. There would have been a lot of trading before everyone takes off and goes to do their fishing or their hunting and gathering. They probably would have had small gardens here that people would have taken care of. When they leave to go hunting or fishing out to camps, they would have come back occasionally and checked on those gardens. We would have gone to berry camp, fish camp, sugar camp. Sugar camp's always exciting. We would have gone out to sugar camp and been tapping those maple trees. And then coming back as a community to share that food. So yes, we've been here, but there would have been many other nations that would have been drawn to this area.
Okay, we were, my husband and I, we were from Illinois.
Yeah.
And there, I guess the Sauk, S-A-U-K.
Yep, the Sauk Nation. Yep. And
It's interesting.
it's really interesting. So if you get into the history, you're going to see there's movement in our histories. We don't have traditional borders. We don't have them now, like the word Anishinaabe. Have you guys heard Anishinaabe? So that's the Great Lakes people, are the first people of this area. And we don't recognize anywhere around the Great Lakes that the Canadian border is. We look at the whole entire swath of the Great Lakes region. So I have family that lives over in New York, and they're Anishinaabe as well. I have friends that are up in Wisconsin, and they're Menominee, and they're Anishinaabe as well. So it's those people that live around the Great Lakes. Excellent questions. Yes?
Yes, I had read about the curriculum that was being
Yeah.
and you mentioned it. Is there a way to get online to find that? You said it's being put in place now. I'm very curious.
So they do have it in the Michigan Standards for Education. You can look up the Michigan Standards for third grade curriculum, and it will be in there. The IEI, Indian Education Initiative, through the state of Michigan. They're located in Lansing. They are working with all the tribes. It's staffed with a lot of brilliant indigenous women who are working to make resources and pull together items to make it relevant learning experience for both the teacher and the student. So that is happening as well. I will be in a few weeks teaching teachers with all the free resources that the state of Michigan has, showing them how to implement them in. I feel really strongly about that. It's very scary to do, and I get that. So I don't want them to be scared. I want them to be competent, not just confident in teaching.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to the ODC, they're supporting that work. Yes.
Do you teach non-natives your language?
So non-natives do learn the language. There are non-natives who are extremely fluent in the language and pick it up better than we do. There are all sorts of people who learn the language. The language is considered a dead language, and we're trying to bring it back from the brink of extinction. So we don't really want to tell people you cannot learn. I will tell you, it does burn a little when you're in class and someone who's not indigenous can just spit everything back out. You're like, oh no, I'm failing. But I'm not, I'm learning and I'm growing. So there are those dynamics. So we never want to shut the language completely out. We want people to know. We also want people to understand. So when I did my introduction, I said my name. I said my name with all the indigenous language to it. That's because I'm paying honor and respect to my ancestors that came before me, to those ones who aren't here, but who made my life possible. So when we speak our language, we are paying respect to them. We are calling on their lives and celebrating them. So that's a reason when we do our introductions, and you'll hear it when you go to other indigenous engagements, people will use their introductions like that, and that's what they're doing. They are really honoring those people that were before them. And so I hope my relatives that come next will honor me that way. They don't have to think of me, but just use the language. So our language is really, really different. You know, in the movies, they have those old westerns where you kind of hear the Indians speak. Me, kimosabe, you go hunt now. Our language is a little bit set up like that, not so broken up. It's very demonstrative, it's very expressive. There are so many verbs to describe things. There's so many ways that elements come together. To describe your family, you don't just say you're my aunt, you're my uncle. You would actually be like, you're my mother's sister, you're my father's sister. And there's two separate, totally different categories for all the way down how you would address people. And so it's just really fun to learn. It gives you a really different perspective on the natural world. We see plants and animals as our relatives. We believe that they have a life and a purpose. Sometimes that life and purpose is to feed us or clothe us. And so we want to thank them for that. And we thank them by offering them tobacco or prayers, saying thank you, honoring them by using all of their body that we can. And if we can't use it all, we make sure we leave it in a place where other animals can use it. That's part of that cycle of life, and so we want to respect that. So thank you for those questions. Oh, yeah, two more.
So in addition to those more traditional type of use of your language, is it ever spoken on a day-to-day basis, like within your family, on a normal?
Yeah, so I had a big problem, a big heart problem. When I first started working, I worked at Gun Lake Tribe as the youth specialist during COVID, so it was not as much fun as it could have been. But they would use the language, and I was like, wow, that's like something me and my dad use, or me and my aunts, and they're speaking it too. So I had to sort it out myself that this is all of our language. So there are places where it's spoken, and it's expected to be spoken. You know, going with the kids and playing with them at camp, we play, instead of rock, paper, scissors, we play skame, which is mosquito, gigo, which is fish, and mako, which is bear. So when they're at camp, they're learning and being embedded with that language. We have a preschool kindergarten down at Pokagon, and those kids there are learning the language. So there are places where we do have expectations to have the language present and active and living. And then there's also lodge and ceremony. So if you go to a lodge teaching or ceremony, you will hear a lot of language. I've gone to one of my teachers' houses. She teaches weaving. She's a prolific weaver in the area. She's well known, Wasan, and in her house they speak a lot of the language. Now she's Ojibwe, and so it's kind of close, but not quite. So some of our stuff crosses over, so sometimes I know what she's talking about and other times I don't. I just kind of say I have no clue what you just said. So it is in some arenas expected. And it's also expected that you're growing. They don't expect you to have it perfect. They expect you just to be trying. So it's always about growth. Yes?
Does the language have a written component?
That is so awesome you asked that. So historically, no. No, we didn't write anything down. We had our birch bark scrolls, which we would have our pictographs on and our different ways of communicating that way, but we didn't write it down with an alphabet. But now it is, and so that's part of that intermeshing of all those Potawatomi nations coming together, and our people who have spent their whole careers in the language are bringing it together and enmeshing it and coming up with said dictionaries. So this is a dictionary. My aunt is the artist in this one. Ooh. So this is one that gives us a lot of information. There's just one that was published by 2 other gentlemen, and it's way more advanced. It kind of breaks down the 3 different segments of the language. And so we are moving forward. So this has half of this book is English. So you would think of an English word and you'd be like, I want to know, that's not the English side. I want to know what P means, or a payoff, or pedal, pair. So you could look all these up and you could find out what these mean in the language. Or if you hear the language and you're like, my grandma used to always say this word, I want to look up what Anishinaabe means. But then you'd have to try to know how it's spelled in here from an oral language. So that's where it kind of gets muddled. But we are trying. We're trying to have that curriculum and those languages built up with the different resources. This is a calendar, okay, and I should be using it, but I'm not. Full disclosure. This is one of those nice planners, and in it every day it has a word you can go over and learn. It has the days of the week, it has the month on here, all in the language. So there's a lot of reinforcements out there. There's a lot of different ways to practice. There are some incredible apps out there. Mango is a free app, and we got a grant to have a Mango portion that's Potawatomi. So you can go on there and learn Potawatomi for free on the Mango app. It is awesome. Any other questions? Yes?
Yes. Do you have a sense of the population numbers of the Anishinaabe?
That is a hard yes and a hard no. So a hard yes because tribes have enrollment, and you have to have people, their records and for being enrolled. So there are those tribal enrollment offices would have those numbers to know. As far as a nation, we're always told we're about 2% of the population, roughly, give or take some, depending on where you live. Some populations are more dense, some are less. So we always know about 2% of the population. That brings me to another fun point. Because that 2% is probably wrong. That's probably a very wrong number. There are a lot of people walking out there who have indigenous descent and they cannot be a part of a tribe. There are a lot of people because their families' names don't show up on one of these censuses. This is the Cadman census. This gentleman, Cadman, went around. John W. Cadman of the United States Indian Interior, August 5th, 1895. So in 1895, this gentleman went all around this area and took a census. So he went and said, you're home, you're telling me you're native, you look pretty native, I'm gonna put you down as full blood. But you don't really look native, I'm gonna put you down as like a quarter. You're not home, you're not even gonna show up on this. Right? You're not home, you're not showing up on this. You're telling me you're Italian because you don't want your kids taken to boarding school? Fine, I'll believe you. So this is an inaccurate record, but this is because the federal government makes us use these to identify who our people are.
It hasn't been updated?
You can't go back and update these. You can't. You can't. It's a paper genocide. Here's the paper. Yes.
What about DNA, as genealogists do?
So you can do DNA. A lot of indigenous people will not do DNA. Will not, because we don't know what that's going to be used for later. We've had enough ethnic cleansing that we're just not interested in that. If my son had a son, and so him and his son had to do DNA testing to be enrolled in the tribe, And there's 2, I think, DNA centers in all of the United States that indigenous people use because they do not keep the information. It is not stored. The tribe says that's who you go to. So yeah,
Government benefits to being a member of a tribe, a recognized tribe.
that's so great because a recognized tribe does get benefits because there's treaties in place. So these treaties are here. Here's an example of a few of them. The treaties are numerous. I think over 250 or so name education as a treaty right. So, you know, if you gave up your land, you and your family get an education. Well, the state of Michigan has only really caught up with that in recent years. I got the benefit of getting the Indian tuition waiver that got me through my time at Grand Rapids Community College, that got me through my time at Central Michigan University and my time at Northern Michigan University. But if you cannot prove that you're in here and you're less than 0.25%, because remember how he did that, you're disqualified. You don't get that benefit. So it is phasing it out. They have put parameters on how you're getting some of these benefits. Some of the other benefits we get is health and IHS and Indian Health Services. So we get great, fantastic supports that I hope we don't lose. Vision, dental, doctors, prescriptions, and that helps the community so much. That alleviates so many pressures is when you have good health services. We get the Johnson O'Malley Scholarship, which is a federally funded program. That one can be used for students, for younger students, elementary age through high school. Sometimes you can get, you know, new tennis shoes for school, but that depends on if your tribe puts in for that. Some tribes don't, some use it for others. We have Title VI. That is at Grand Rapids Public Schools. I worked there for a minute. They have a program that works with all students who self-identify. So there again, we're not asking for your tribal ID. If your family says you're a descendant, we believe you. And then we would take and check on you every 2 or 3 weeks in school, make sure you're getting accurate supports, making sure you also have a place to come and learn about your indigenous history and your peoples. So we had people from all over the United States, all different types of nations, not just local Ojibwe and Odawa and Pokagon or Potawatomi. We had people from everywhere. We had so many fun students, and the best part was we got to dig into and get a hold of some of their tribes and say, what should we be teaching your students about their nation and about their people? Some of it Cherokee, we could find a lot online. Some of it we couldn't really find because they're not, they don't have huge resources because they don't have casinos or economic sovereignty. We were all promised in the treaty rights as well. Casinos are not the only way for us to have that economic sovereignty. It's just one of the ways we choose to do it to fast track us to having a sturdy foundation to build off from. So now, oh yeah, go ahead.
Can you share any information with us about the boarding school
Yeah.
issues from the indigenous groups in this part of West Michigan?
So my grandparents were both boarding school survivors, but barely. They were fractured people. My grandmother was up north at Holy Childhood, up in Petoskey. Me and my family were up there a couple summers ago, and I took my cousin. We went to go find it. I kind of knew I was in the general area. I went to a store and asked, and the lady was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then a guy who was in line said, she knows what you're talking about. No one in this town wants to talk about it. It's that building. And I was like, wow, thank you. So we were able to go, and the church was next to it, and the church was still there. So I felt really connected there, knowing that my grandmother walked through those doors as a child. She probably missed her family dearly. They purposefully separated you from your family, so if you had siblings at one school, they would try to send you to a different school. So it was isolating and lonely. My grandpa, he went to Mount Pleasant. I don't know much about his experience there other than he loves dungarees And that was part of his work ethic, was wearing the dungaree overalls, and that was part of their uniforms there. So they couldn't speak the language. They were both Catholic, so they did take on that identity as being Catholic. And a lot of my family still has Catholic beliefs and are practicing Catholics today. And so I say they were fractured people. We never really heard a whole lot about it, but other family members or other relatives or people who were at the same schools can tell stories. And so we can get a gist of what they experienced through that, but they didn't talk a whole lot about it.
Has there ever been any restitution made to these people?
Just recognition. I know the boarding school in Mount Pleasant, the tribe up there, they have bought and back that property. And so once a year they have a ceremony there and a teaching, and you can go to that and hear the stories, take your time and grieve for your relative or celebrate the life and what they've done with their life post schooling, and
Was there any
have that
education really in these schools, or was it?
So there's a couple
Hard
different
work.
forms of education. Some people had really great experiences there. Some people did not. It depended on who was running it and how it was running. Some of the schools did take other Indian students and put them in charge of the abuses, of handing out punishments. And that was a very effective way to break a community. They did take away your language. They did cut your hair. They would have taken all your indigenous clothes that you came in and burned them and just put you in those dungarees. You know, you wouldn't have gotten any of that back. You would have been beaten for speaking your language, even if that's the only words you knew when you walked in there. So the restitution, no. In some of those schools, you were supposed to learn how to do advanced works. So one of the advanced works they would give you is they would have taught you how to be a housemaid, how to go and take care of other people. But within that structure, then that left these young girls open to being abused in these homes because they were seen as less than. They were going
Sounds
there.
like modern day slavery.
Very correct, yes. Yep. The young men, they would teach them how to do things like machine shopping, but they never taught them how to do the bigger, fuller jobs that would pay them more. They more or less taught them just enough to be an assistant to go work at a mill or somewhere like that. So it was very gatekeeping experience for these education purposes. So while that was a treaty and they somewhat fulfilled it, it was just somewhat. It was just enough to say, we kind of did our job. We're all done. Yes?
Positive note.
Yeah.
I know the Gun Lake
Yeah.
tribe is working on trying to reestablish the sturgeon in the Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any of the programs that are going on within the Pokagon for that?
So we worked together. When I worked with Gun Lake as their youth specialist, and my grandmother is a descendant there, if she was still alive, that's where she would be enrolled. It was so much fun to go to their sturgeon office or their sturgeon, I don't want to call it a clinic, but where they're hatching them and keeping them. Fishery, yes. To go there and hang out with them. So they had the different pools of them, different sizes. They keep the water from that area flushing through, so they are imprinted. Those sturgeon are imprinted with that DNA from that water, so they know that's home. And so that's where they'll come back to. So they never take them out of that home water. So they put down mats, these like fingery carpet looking things, that when the sturgeon lay their eggs, they catch the eggs, and then they pull the mats up and get the eggs out by hand, and then they start hatching them. Now they do have sometimes a guy who's born with like not all of his fins, or it's just not someone who would make it in the wild. And so they would take that one and they would put him like in a tank, and he would be more for like a museum type situation. Or I think they have a nice, very, very nice setup in the lobby of Gun Lake with their fish who are not going to be making it, just kind of like we do at the ODC. We have all those animals there that would not make it out in the real world. They've been too injured or are disadvantaged or imprinted on people. So they have that. We don't have a hatchery at Pokagon. We have worked with Gun Lake. We have ricing. We're bringing ricing back. So is Nottawassippi. NHPP has done a phenomenal job of bringing rice back. Actually, some of their rice beds that we know of are in this local area and are phenomenal. So bringing rice back means you're bringing sturgeon back. The rice does not grow in bad water, and neither do sturgeon. So you really have to make a conscious effort to have a clean watershed. So all the tribes work with watersheds and work with the local people to try to clean up the watersheds so we can bring back those indigenous lifeways. So it would be that, the neme, the sturgeon, and that minoman, that wild rice. So thank you. Yes?
Are there particular areas right around here that are significant to Potawatomi?
So there are. A lot of people have significant structures on their property. They may or may not be aware of it. Burial mounds. There's a lot of burial mounds. It's said that you can't go anywhere in the Saugatuck-Douglas area without digging up something from an indigenous person. Like if you're doing excavating, that is very rich here. There's a lot of burial grounds because this was that intersection for those waterways. So there would have been a lot of people here gathered, a lot of business happening, burials, food caches along the Kalamazoo. Those are thousands of years old. They're a lined pit. You would have taken your dried meats, your dried berries, you would have put some in there, you would have known what type of plants to layer it with, so to keep the bacteria out and give it healthy bacteria. So when you came back during the winter, you could dig that up and you would have a small food supply to get you started. So food caches are around here. When they're building roadways and things, they find them. The state archaeologists documents those. So that's pretty amazing as well. Yes?
Can you say about your amulet there?
Oh, this is made by a friend of mine. She's a prolific artist. She's an incredible weaver. This is bulrush. Do you guys know bulrush? It grows on water like Rush Lake. You could weave this. This would have been made like a mat. So Miss Patty made this. She would have made a mat, and the mat would have been like, she would take that into sweats with her to sit on. She would use that to sit on in her home. Traditionally, it would have been like her bed mat or her seat mat to help keep her dry. You can also make large mat like this to insulate your home. So this was, we have really large mats, cedar mats, bulrush mats, and cattail mats that we make. So weaving is a very large part of what we do in our communities. Thank you for asking. All right, I'm going to show you a couple things, a couple items, because we are running out of time. So these are traditional beadwork. I love these two pieces. I love to show these to the kids. Some people know who this guy is, some people don't. Every kid knows it's sports. They're like, it's a sports thing. I got this years ago in Seattle from the Duwamish people. The Duwamish people is where Chief Seattle hails from. Chief Seattle is a Duwamish tribe member. They are an unfederally recognized tribe. They have no treaty rights. They have no sovereignty. They have no land. So I love to show this one to kids. This is a very beautiful piece of really tight flat work, beadwork, and this is, of course, the Seattle Seahawks. So I love to show this one. This is a really fun one. This friend gave me when I graduated probably 7 or 8 years ago. This says Lakota on it. He got this out in the Badlands. It is an example of peyote stitch and fringe. This was bought at like a roadside family stand. This helps this family support themselves out there. So out on those reservations, they don't have a whole lot of work, but this was one way that you can support those families is by buying their work, not the stuff that was made in China or India, but traditional Anishinaabe or indigenous works. So we have a lot of fun. The kids love to check out the beadwork, feel it, Some of it, yes, has been in kids' mouths. I don't mind. It is an amazing feel when you feel the texture. That flat work is really, really nice sensation on it. It really does feel good. But I just really appreciate the Duwamish people and their willingness to keep trying to push forward to get their federal recognition. We have a tribe here locally in the West Michigan area that is pushing for their federal recognition, the Grand River Band. And so Ron Yob and them, I have a cousin who sits on that board as well. They have been working for years and years and years to get their federal recognition. If you go back and read historical books about the area, it talks about that tribe over and over and over again. Do not know why they're not federally recognized, other than there's holdups. So that is very exciting, is that they're moving forward.
How does a tribe get federally recognized now that they have to?
So all tribes were not federally recognized. They had to prove it. They had to, and the federal government set up a guideline to do that. You have to have a language that's separate. You have to have ceremonies or traditions that are your own, and then you have to prove that you belonged in a certain area. So the people of the Pokagon Band, we could prove we were there because of Chief Pokagon. He kept us in the area, some of our descendants. We did not go on the Trail of Death. We stayed here because he said, I am Catholic, I am a landowner. And so they said, okay, you can stay here. And through his works and his land ownership, we were allowed to establish our tribe, saying we had a history in this area. Gun Lake tribe had a history with the Bradley settlement and the small church over there. So they have a really fantastic little church that's been there for years and years and years. It holds a ton of documents. It has for a lot of families, baptisms and things, but it just shows also that they were active in that community. My dad has stories of running away from being over there when he was a kid because his brothers made him mad, and he was stomping off the hill and someone went back and got him. So, you know, a lot of us have those stories that cross over those federally made lines. Those tribes, the way they're set up today is not an indigenous tribal governance system. It's a federal US system. So that's one of the ways. So I have this book. This is a beautiful book. This is Dancing for Our Tribe. This is all different Potawatomi nations and people. This is contemporary, so you guys will be able to see the contemporary people. That is Leonard Church. He's from here, Dr. Casey. I believe that's our pastor. He has an incredible, prolific church that he runs online, Facebook and Zoom meetings, because church for Indigenous people is on a Monday night, not a Sunday. Sundays we're at the powwow. So we do it later. So I have a sister, my sister is in here. Let me see, is she marked? Yes, so that's my youngest sister, Angenique. She is both Pokagon and Walpole Island Potawatomi. So she lives in Canada. She is a jingle dress dancer. She dances to heal our people. And I just love that she's in this book. That's Dakota, she's a friend of mine. She is now pregnant and married. So this book was published a few years ago, but it's still accurate in showing our dress styles. So if you want to take a look at this when we're done, please come up and check it out. You can see the Potawatomi cape on here. That cape is, we're known for that in this area, but I guess it has come from, we used to wear a hood. So that hood would have been that cape. And so it was stylized, you know, because we like to style things up. As you see, we love colors. We love bold, beautiful, beautiful colors. Our beadwork is phenomenal. Yes.
What's the governance of the Anishinaabe? I mean, some tribes have a matriarchal.
Yeah, yep. The clan system around here would have been how we would have gone. So clan systems would be, we would have had different chiefs. We would have had a sugar bush chief, a war chief. We believed that no one man could speak for every person. So you would be able to make your choices for your family and for yourself based on every interaction. You know, yes, we're going to go to war. No, I don't feel like we're going to war for this. We're going to move on from this encampment. We're going to step out of this one. But those were all decisions made by the matriarchs, by the clan mothers. So these mothers had their fingers on the pulse of the society. They knew how many births were going to happen. They knew how many homes they needed. They knew how much food needed to be gathered. So these are the women that would be able to make these calls. They would relay the message to the chiefs, and the chiefs then would go out and enforce those or do the bidding. So nothing was done without the mothers, the clan mothers. These women held really important roles in our societies. Well, thank you. Yes?
You mentioned, I think you said that you consider the plants and the animals.
Yes, animate and relatives, yes. Mm-hmm.
Talk about any specific ones that are more important than others or anything?
So my favorite is thinking about a larger rock, a rock the size of your fist or bigger is a sun. It's a sun. It is a grandfather rock. So I talk about this with the kids. When we're doing it, I'm like, that grandfather rock has always supported us. It's always under our feet. Right now you're sitting on cement. You're sitting on something built by rock. Rock is such an integral part of everything we do, and that's our grandfather. Just like your grandfathers were there for you, thinking of you, helping you along the way, so do those rocks. So that's one of my favorite, but I like rocks. Yes, ma'am?
What do they use to string their beads on, and how do they get them so darn flat? Because I tried to replicate a necklace that I had that was Native American, I'll tell you.
So years and years of work and muscle memory. So you don't get it right the first time, you don't get it right the 20th time, maybe the 100th time you start getting that quality work that you're like, I could sell this now. Some people are a little faster, some people are a little slower, but it's patience, it's being nice to yourself. It's going to sit with those people who have those skills and will teach you those different little tips and tricks on how to do it. And then it's time.
What is the thread they're using?
So the thread could be, historically, years and years and years ago, it would have been made out of like a fiber, like a basswood fiber or some other fibers they would have gotten out of a tree or something and rolled it really delicate. It could have been sinew, so it could have been those tendons out of the animals. You get it dry, and then if you want some, you chew it off, peel it, kind of chew it to get it soft, or soak it in water, and you can get it soft. Nowadays, we use nylon, which is kind of a plasticky, really thin string, but it's nice because it is plasticky, so when you finish it, you can kind of light it with a lighter and fuse it together and kind of get that nice little plastic knot at the end that helps hold it. So that is something. All right, I am wondering, are we close to the end? I don't want to keep anyone, I want to value your time. So I have about 3 minutes left. Are there any final questions? Yes.
Considering the climate issues, and in particular, the concerns that I'm hearing more people have around bringing palisades
Online.
Was told another evening ago in a community meeting that I was sitting in that with the practice drill that was done about a month and a half ago, there were more questions being asked. And one of the questions was about the discharge of waters. What's being done to monitor whether or not there's radiation? And the answer that was given was no answer.
Oh boy.
The question was just put aside. That, to me, has lots of implications for everyone, but I'm thinking of the sacredness of the Great Lakes for First Nations people.
Yeah, yes. So for us, water is sacred, and water is sacred to women. Just like women have those 13 moon cycles, when you're pregnant, you carry water with you. So it's every woman's obligation to care for water. So if you're an Anishinaabe woman, you are automatically assumed that responsibility that you care for water. So we do water walks, which is a ceremony and a celebration, a time to think about water, a time to protest the treatment of water. To hear that they are not doing any testing and there's no standards and no safeguards is very disturbing. I would encourage you to get a hold of some of the water walkers. I don't know if you're on social media, there are some different women in some different groups in the Great Lakes region that focus specifically on that. Now, most of them are on Line 5, most of them are in other parts of the Great Lakes systems because nothing's been drawing their attention to this area. So I think we need to start drawing attention there and getting some of these fantastic women here to defend the water, to make them accountable. Thank you. All right. Oh, well, 12 o'clock exactly. All right, it's been an incredible time with you guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you have some knowledge to bring with you. If you have any questions or follow-ups, you can contact me at the Outdoor Discovery Center. I'm Myriah Williams. I really enjoyed working with you guys today. I loved your questions. Thank you so much for your time.